Hello and welcome to Sisters Assembled, your home for all things MCU. And we are still very much in our Fantastic Four First Steps era. We are doing a little bit of a breakout episode. Last week we did our initial reactions to the film. Spoiler alert, it was great. This week we're going to talk a little bit about some of the topics that we didn't quite get to in that episode. Real spoiler alert though, this episode will dive deep into those topics. So if you have not seen the film, please make sure that you're doing that before listening to this episode. This is the last verbal spoiler warning you're going to get. Turn it off now, come back later because we don't want to do that to you. With that being said, Katie, I'm going to toss it to you. Kick us off.
All right, so let's get into Galactus in the film because we talked about him briefly in the actual reactions, just about he was cool, he was awesome, really liked seeing him. But what we weren't able to really explore and we wanted to spend extra time talking about is where the heck is he? Because we sent him somewhere and we don't really know where. I think there's kind of two options about where we take this. The first is just he's deep in their universe, which is pretty much what Reed had said was the intention behind what they were doing. They were pretty much going to just blast him as far to the edge of their universe as they could, and then pray, I guess, and find and hope he doesn't find them again for. He said like quite a few years, not centennials. Millennials. I don't know.
Millions.
He did say many years. Okay, I don't remember off the top of my head. I've seen the movie once.
Well,
okay.
And he also didn't have his ship, so like it would be very hard for him to move then, too.
Exactly. So that was kind of the whole point, and I think if we take it at face value, that's exactly what they probably maybe did. But I think the other option
probably
maybe.
Could you couch that anymore?
Yeah. No, I don't know. Maybe.
Possibly. Kind of, sort of.
Kind of. He could be. I don't know. But the other option is that he was blasted into another universe altogether. And I think that is probably the one we want to explore a little deeper because we actually talked a lot about this in the Galactus episode we did prior to the movie. We talked about, hey, we don't think he's going to be beaten, as in he's going to no longer be living. Because how do you really beat Galactus? I mean, obviously Thor does it in the comics, but it takes a really long time to get to that point. So I think knowing that he was probably going to live, we had theorized, how does he maybe come back? Because we would like to see him come back. He is a huge villain. And so we'd like to see him play a different role. And I think that's the option in which that happens.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it also is the more interesting option. Like,
for sure.
Okay, cool. He can say, I mean, I guess if you're considering it Earth 828, it would be Universe 828 as a whole. I'm assuming that's how that works. So I don't want to see him trapped in 828. We know at some point, and we'll talk about this later in the episode, our Fantastic Four needs to be out of 828 and onto 616. So I would prefer that he has kind of moved because I think we all know we spend all of our time on 616. We dabble in the occasional other universe, but home base is 616.
Yeah.
And after Secret Wars, home base will continue to be 616. I'm like 90% sure. So if we want to keep an interesting character on the board, we need to get them there. The other thing that I think opens up when you talk about Galactus moving universes is the idea of what are the consequences for moving something that big that far? Because Reed Richards is brilliant, but it's entirely possible he made a mistake in the calculation and or didn't prepare for something that big going through just one of those gate things. I'm just tossing out random math stuff just to like justify that. But I think either way, whatever the math is and whatever the logistics are there, it's entirely possible Galactus ended up in a whole new universe, and that caused an incursion because of the size and the scale of what was happening. If that is the case, I could see how 828 would then potentially be involved in whatever incursion Doctor Strange started in MOM. Because it's like a domino effect, right? We saw some incursions during MOM with the universes collapsing. He was in a universe that was dying. That was where we saw one of the evil versions of Doctor Strange. I think there were multiple. So yes, it was happening already to some universes, but I think I got the impression that Doctor Strange's incursion was a little bit more of a problem because it was a little bigger, maybe, or like more grand. Don't forget that man like went around to multiple different universes and was like, multiverse, I'm just gonna travel. So I would imagine this is on like the same level of scale. So you have Strange over here on one end, TBD if the universe that's incurring is also 616 because he was on so many, so we're not 100% sure exactly what universe that happened on. The reason I'm bringing that up is we can now count 828 as potentially another area where they are incurring or experiencing an incursion, and there's just going to be these pockets of the multiverse literally collapsing. And so then, as we talk about what leads into Secret Wars, and I know we have Doomsday in the middle, and the only reason I'm crapping on that film is I still don't understand what the point is when you're like working towards Secret Wars, but whatever. You are then seeing the multiversal collapse, the pieces of the different universes that are then going to make a battle world. And I could see how this universe will have that, how that will happen to this universe and how it'll get kind of brought into what is essentially going to be a total collapse.
So we are not even 7 minutes into the episode and my brain is like, what did you just say to me? Yes, I think. I do think regardless of it all, I'm sure this universe is involved. I feel like any universe we're starting to see at this point has to be involved. And I mean, to be fair, Battle World is kind of a catch-all for it. We can really have whatever universes they want to include. Like, if we want the one where the Illuminati was absolutely, taken out by Wanda, we can have them involved in Battle World if we want. That's totally fine. So I do think there's a little bit of a catch-all in that capacity. Where I think if we kind of wrap that back into Galactus, I mean, I don't want to get into this debate because we kind of had it in his episode, but we had the whole question of, is there really one Galactus? Are there multiple Galacti? Like, how exactly does that work? So I do think him as a whole, I could see him circling back. We kind of said that before too. I could see him circling back in a battle world. But I also, as you were saying, he can create such a large hole or tear almost in a universe just trying to essentially get out of it, that it's like, okay, well, now what? How does that work? And did he tear 828 as he flew into whoever was next? Did he tear the next one? Like, where exactly was this happening? And then also, where is he going? We don't know. He could be trapped in 828. He could not be. But I think it's important they keep him on the board. Either way, though, if he's trapped in 828, he could still appear if 828's a part of Battle World. If he ended up anywhere else, he could also still appear. I think the ability to have an incursion happens no matter what. Whether he just ripped a hole in the multiverse or he ripped a hole in his own universe, I don't really think it matters. I think you're still able to have an incursion take place in either of these circumstances.
Well, I agree with part of your statement, but not the other part. I think either way, whether he's on 828 or another universe, he ends up in Battle World, because then even if he's not on for long, because obviously we know that Doom is going to be like the ultimate antagonist of that film, as he should be. But basically, to me, Battle World is like him going through a tunnel into 616. Like, via Battle World, he will be available to use in the primary universe that we've been following in future projects. Where I think I don't necessarily agree with your analysis there is that I don't think that, creating a teleportation within your own universe creates an incursion, because an incursion is inherently two universes like colliding, isn't it? So
yes, but it starts by messing around too much in certain universes.
I think it's just cleaner.
That's why Strange also that's why when in MOM, that's why Strange was causing them, was because he was hopping through them and creating, like, Wanda sat here and killed the entire Illuminati. It wasn't just him. I put the blame on him because I'm not going to blame Mother, but I will say, like, Wanda went into a universe and completely screwed it. Like, that's what happened. And so it's like these big events that are taking place in this universe that also are never meant to happen, because now you have time traveling people, also people dream walk, not time traveling, multiversal traveling, some of them through dream walking, which in and of itself is like, we shouldn't be doing that. But I'm saying, like, these bigger events that are especially cosmically related. Think about, like, the doorways created in the Marvels.
I'm still trying to wrap my head into how that all makes, like, how that all fits into the larger conversation.
But I'm saying, like, look at how that that the power created these doorways from a jump. I mean, I think what I'm seeing in Marvel, or specifically the MCU, is incursions don't have just one basic way of being created.
That's fair.
Looks to me, and traveling between the multiverse is not, there's not just one way to do that either. So I do think you're ripping a hole in your own universe no matter what, trying to completely travel a huge, theoretically the most and biggest, largest, every big word you could think of, being in that universe to another part of your universe without him doing it himself. Like, I think regardless, that can create its own incursion, because it probably destabilizes the universe.
You make good points. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna fight you on that. That was a well-argued
science terms out there.
Point. You did. That was good.
I felt proud.
Excuse me.
I felt
apparently
really
we're both having some throat issues at the same time. That was awkward. But anyway, you're right. I do think either way, Galactus ends up in Battle World. He ends up eventually on 616 would be my preferred method. Then we get him in with Celestials, which we know, if we're gonna put some really cosmic, and we talked about this in the predictions, like, Galactus is cosmic. And I don't mean like Galactus is cosmic fact. I mean, like, Galactus is the epitome of cosmic. And the other beings that we have seen that are the epitome of cosmic are the Celestials. I think we're going to get him in there so that we can have those types of, interactions. Also, side note, unrelated to like this particular multiversal conversation, but when he was first emerging, when they said they found a heat signature in that planet that they originally were negotiating with him on, and they said they found a heat signature, and then he started to emerge, I was like, I know it's Galactus. Like, in my head, I understand that, but I was like, oh my god, is it a Celestial? Are they in this universe too? Because again, like, the Celestial lives inside and I knew it wasn't, but like in my head, I was like, this seems familiar.
Oh,
and so
no,
like,
I knew it was him, so I didn't think twice. But
I mean, again, like, I knew it was him, but there was a part of me that was like, like, I'm confused. But anyway, getting back to the point at hand, I think we will see Galactus again. I think he has probably, I mean, look, it's early yet. We saw it on Thursday, and it's still opening weekend when we're recording this. But I would think that people are going to be really, really excited about him. I think they left him alive for a reason. I mean, also, how do you kill him? But like, they left him an open end, a tangling thread, if you will, for a reason. I think we're going to see him again, and I hope we do. And I think, moving him towards Battle World and then to 616 is the right way to go, because, I'm going to use the Miles Morales example. Take that as you will, because we've gotten some questionable news about whether or not he's going to make it into 616.
You need to focus when it comes to that topic.
No, but there's a reason I'm bringing it up, is like,
I know. I'm just saying, don't go off the deep end.
I'm not. I'm gonna keep it cool. I've had a little bit of time to process the news. But he is, as you know, he's not introduced on 616. He's on a different universe, and then he's able to then move on to 616 via what happens in Secret Wars and Battle World. What I'm imagining for Galactus is the same kind of thing. Bringing a very interesting character who's existing in a different universe into the primary continuity via such a large, what's the word I'm looking for? Event, crossover moment like Secret Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I said that even in his episode. I was like, I expect him to kind of show up. I think it'd be weird if he didn't. I also do think to not save him for a different capacity later on feels strange, considering he's been in conversations about being a big bad later down the road. So, like, why would we just see him in one movie? I'd like to
And
see him
Thanos
come
showed
back.
up in Avengers and, use Loki as a proxy. Even
Right.
Guardians, he was in that and used Ronan as a proxy, but you couldn't beat Thanos. And
Yeah.
now they were unable to beat Galactus. You can have an entire other film where Galactus is the bad guy and find a way to defeat him with different people on the board. Like, there's so much opportunity with him. And then you could also go like the way, way, way cosmic route with him. Would hurt my brain, but hey,
I
I'm
don't
open
think
to
they'll do
trying.
that because, quite frankly, I think that's too in depth. And also, knowing the X-Men are kind of coming up and their
Yeah.
next at bat, I do think if they're going to pull Galactus into the stories, I don't think it's going to be through the cosmic, like, mind headache that is. But I want to kind of shift gears a little bit because I feel like we've kind of exhausted the two possibilities of where we think he'll be or where he's going to show up or how he's going to, whatever, all the W's and the how. But I want to talk about his relationship with their son, Franklin, because he's like convinced he's his successor, essentially. And now that might be his POV, but it also could be accurate. It could be true. We know that he is one of the most powerful characters. I mean, like, some of the really like big news, like gaming and Marvel and all these like news sources are already doing the articles that are like, here he is, Franklin Richards, one of the most OP characters that exists. Like, I've already seen them already. And so,
Yeah.
like, he is one of the most powerful characters to exist. But Galactus is like, hey, little buddy, you would be the best snack and you'd make me stop being hungry. And, like, I love that.
Okay, but here's where I was confused. Did he want to devour him or like literally raise him to take his place?
So I was also confused because at first it sounded like he was like, he's my successor, blah, 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 blah. But then when he actually gets it, or like when he's talking to the Silver Surfer, he's like, he would put an end to my hunger. So I was
But
like,
I
is he eating him?
wonder I wonder if it's more like a mantle in that if Franklin takes over
For
the
him, he wouldn't
role
eat
of the
anymore.
devourer, he would no longer be hungry. And like that's like cuz even the
True.
Silver Surfer says like he has I forget what title she uses and I'm annoyed because I know we talked about this in the predictions, but she says like he is XXX of the cosmos, he has a purpose, like all this in her spiel when she initially comes. And I'm almost viewing that now as like a mantle and like someone has to have that role. And I think my interpretation of his relationship to Franklin is he views Franklin as someone who can do that, thereby releasing him of the responsibility. And I did think it was interesting, like when he first interacts with the Fantastic Four, like in person when they go visit him at that planet, he says, like, oh, I feel his hunger too, which is a little concerning. Like, and
Fair.
and the fact that he was saying, oh, he's hiding his powers from you. Like he's conscious in and I'm
Enough
not
to do
saying
that.
yeah, and I'm not saying anything about whether he will or won't flirt with darkness in his, time as he grows up, but the fact that as an unborn child, he was aware enough to be like, they're running all these tests on me. I have to pretend I'm normal. And Reed just kept obsessively checking, like, is my kid normal or is he, enhanced? And this is the most advanced, not advanced, the most powerful mutant, full stop, period. So it is both terrifying and super interesting that he's already aware before even being born. Then at the same
Yeah.
time, he is giving off this aura that Galactus can feel that he's hungry too, but hungry for what? And then pile on when he brings Sue back from the literal dead, which, okay,
Yeah.
that's casual. But when he brings his mom back from the literal dead, like her eyes actually reminded me of Infinity from
Well,
Love
I
and
was going to say
Thunder.
either that or it actually reminded me a lot too of like, I feel like they look like that when they held the Power Stone in Guardians.
Yes, but like hers, like you could almost see like the space through her eye, like in her eyes. I
Yeah.
feel like that to me is more vibey with what we saw at the end of Love and Thunder.
Well, I think that's exactly probably what they're creating and they're trying to show, because that is a part of Galactus we're trying to avoid
Yeah.
talking too deeply
Eternity.
about, because that's where your mind just gets a headache and you're like, "Oh my god, make it stop." But I do think that's probably a connection right there. I mean, you literally just brought somebody back from the dead
Yeah.
super casually as a baby,
Yeah.
mind
Again, like
you.
the level of cognition, and I mean the guy's literally reading well, he's not reading, his mom is literally reading him The Origin of Species at the age of 4. Like that was crazy.
Yeah.
But he's already so aware at what, a few months old, that he knows his mom died and he knows he can bring her back, and then literally claps when he does it. Like the level of cognition. So he definitely got dad. I mean, they're both brilliant, but Reed is, you know, one of the
Yeah.
smartest people in Marvel Comics, period. Definitely got dad's super big brain there. So he is a multi-level threat. And I'm super curious. Like, we've already aged him up, and this is something I want to talk about for sure. They've already aged him up 4 years. That's one time jump. We
Yeah.
know there's going to be, I think it's 8, well, in the comics, there's, I believe, 8 years between the first comic of, if you're looking at like the big book, between the first comic of Secret Wars and then the rest of the story. So even with time in between, or without time in between, saying that Doomsday takes place quickly, that's a 12-year-old Franklin already,
Yeah.
assuming they do that. So smart, but also like, wow. And then you think, okay, so this must have taken place 4 years in theory before the Thunderbolts, because we haven't even seen them come to 616 yet. So
True.
you can start to like, they refuse to put years on anything, I get it, but you can start to like plot, okay, 4 years before the Thunderbolts, is that technically like we're still going through the blip on 616? So it's interesting how these pieces are starting to generally come together, like broad strokes.
Yeah, I mean, also keeping in consideration this universe is currently in the 60s as well. So like we're
Yeah.
not one for one. It's not like they're in 2025 and then it's like, "Oh, actually they're in 2029 now." They're technically already behind us in regards to where we are in the MCU. So that is something to kind of keep on the top of your mind as you're thinking about it. I
Yeah.
do think it's smart. I also think you don't really have much to lose, because right now the MCU is a hot mess as far as it comes for dates. We know
Yeah.
that that's been reality this entire saga. We don't know where things fall half the time. It's a little bit of its own headache. But when you have something that's set in its own universe, who cares? You could have time jumped 20 years and it would not affect anything in the larger universe, because they're still, like I said, in the 60s. They
Yeah.
would only be in the 80s, and obviously the characters would age up and things of that nature, but like
Yeah.
it technically wouldn't affect anything. So I do think the time jump was smart, because to your point, you need to start aging him up to just put him on the board in general, because you're not going to have a baby running around in Battle World. That's just
Yeah.
like not going to be feasible. It's not going to be possible. So I do think it was a smart move. I also think you, again, don't have any stakes. They beat Galactus. I know they've been Fantastic Fouring for the past 4 years. Cool. But like, I don't need to see it. Nothing else has happened clearly that has changed that until this exact moment when Doom shows up. So
Yeah.
I think the time jump doesn't bother me. I think it's smart. I think it
I
plays
agree.
exactly how it needs to play and puts him hopefully at a more accurate age to where he should be as we move forward. So we're not also like watching a toddler run around, because like, I'm sorry, but we all know my feelings about kids between the ages of like 3 and 10, because I feel like half the time they can't act. And so like it would really be frustrating to me to see this like 4-year-old running around. So I'm hoping then we get a little bit of another jump, like you said, that 8 years, and then boom, there he is at 12.
It would be extremely wild to me if, well, actually, I was surprised. Well, let me take that back. There was a part of me that was like, oh my gosh, she's definitely pregnant with Valeria, because I refuse to not have the full like Richard Storm family, because to me that like is the story, right?
Yeah.
It's the whole idea of him taking the whole family. And obviously they're a family of 3. That's not what I'm trying to say. But like the iconic storyline is like they are a family of 4. It's his 2 children and all of that. So there was a part of me, like when they said 4 years later, I was like, great, so where's the bassinet? Or is she pregnant? Like, where is Valeria gonna come in here? I mean, I guess technically it's still possible she's pregnant, but I was kind of like, yay, announcement, let's do it. And then it went in a totally different direction than I was expecting. But that's the one piece too where like, yes, we're gonna get the time jump and that's great, but I'm a little confused about like how that piece is gonna happen, because I would like to see the full all 4 of them when Battle World and all of that and Secret Wars is taking place.
Yeah, I don't really have that same concern. I think you could tell the story the same either way. I think also so much is going to be happening that at this point, I'm like, do we really need her right now? Because I feel like we're about to have so much happen on the big screen that I'm like, I'm stressed about the first one that they just popped out. And we don't know what he's going to look like. We don't know what powers he's really going to come to fruition to have. We don't know how he's going to impact the universe. We have no idea how that's actually going to play out until it does. So I'm like, my brain is not even worried about a second child here in any terms of the universe.
I feel like though, and don't quote me on this because I was doing research for something else a little bit ago and this popped up. I feel like Valeria has like a weirdly close relationship to Doctor Doom. So like, because we're going to go into like he's going to quasi be their dad in Battle World because he's made it so. If we're going to do that, like I would like to have her there, because those are 2 characters who do have a really weird relationship considering how much Doom and her father hate each other.
Well, and like you said, it's not possible that she's pregnant again.
Yeah. It would just be like odd to like have to do that through Doomsday, but it's possible.
I mean, we'll see. I do think I want to kind of get a little bit into that end credit though, because we talked about it during our actual reactions about the fact of like, 1, didn't think that was going to happen so quickly. 2, who we think is on the ship now going to 616 and things of that nature. But I think now we need to focus on the 3 that we know are together, which are Sue, her son, and Doom. And now we know they're together and we know Doom's taking them. Like, that's an implied, like, we're not going to hang out in this universe anymore. He's taking them somewhere because he's not from this universe. We know that.
Are we sure?
No, but I'm going to say we are.
Yeah, because you're like out here very confidently saying we know that, yet there
I
was
think
no representative from Latveria in any of the future Foundation shots.
That's fair. And I did catch that. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't put together why that was significant, but I was like, that is weird. Why is there nobody from those countries? And then we never talked about it. So I was like, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. I mean, it's not to say he couldn't be, but I guess what would really frustrate me a little is like, we didn't mention him at all. So as of right now, theoretically, this Fantastic Four doesn't have a connection to him at all. So he almost, to me, like, has his own relationship that he creates towards. Does that make sense? Kind of what I'm trying to say. So what I'm saying is, like, originally we know how he gets his powers. He gets his powers with them. They're all friends. Like, this is all one big, like, whatever. We know the origins. We've seen them, whatever. That did not happen to our knowledge, because in all the videos, he's not in them. There's no 5th astronaut. They go up the 4 of them. That's emphasized 17 million times. And he is never mentioned. He's never alluded to that they have this friend. If anything, it's Mole Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like he kind of plays that, like, slightly, like, not
frenemy?
Antagonist. What?
Frenemy role?
Yeah, that's the word. Because I was like, it's not like antagonistic. But yes, the frenemy role. He almost plays that in this movie. So I guess my point being is, if Doom is from this universe, he has his own, like, weird vendetta then if he's coming to get Sue. Like, there's no emotional connection, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. It's completely fabricated in his mind. Versus, I feel like it's very different if we have one coming from a different universe that, like, say his Sue died, or so, so many things could have happened, or there's no Franklin. And he found a universe in which a Franklin was born, and that's the one he went to. And he's like, oh, cool, Sue's here too. And boom, shakalaka, they're out.
Okay. I mean, look, what you're saying, it has merit. I personally think he's from this universe. I think it's cleaner.
I just think it's weird. I think
Well, because
it
here's the thing.
cheapens everything to me.
I would disagree because here's the thing. Yes, you're right. In past iterations, he has gotten his powers going to space. But I'm fairly certain, and it's been a while since I've looked into Doctor Doom, but I'm fairly certain he has like magic, right? So he has power. And he and Reed go way back. That's why they're friends. So I guess my point here being, he doesn't necessarily need to be on the ship for them to have had a long-standing relationship that has soured.
No, I just don't. I think it's weird to me to make that assumption. Like, you completely kept that out, in my opinion. So, like, I'd rather him kind of show up and be almost disconnected entirely than just be them almost like retcon it to be like long lost friend, but also frenemy. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like the connection. Like, I feel like I'd rather there not be the emotional connection almost at all between the two, other than like he has his versions and they don't have theirs, rather than say he is from the universe and then it's like, all right, but like they don't have the same connection that they should have.
I still don't agree. I think it's just super random if it's like completely disconnected. I also think they went out of their way to show Latveria twice. And that's why like I'm really struggling because they're clearly like it's super subtle, but they're clearly hinting at the fact that like there are ties to him in this universe. So, you know, Doomsday is going to be about him. Whether he's the antagonist or in a weird way it follows him almost as if he is the protagonist depending on how it's written. Kind of like a Venom, but he doesn't turn hero. You know, we're going to get so much information about this Doom at the beginning of Doomsday. They have to. It's a completely new character. He's, other than this 5 seconds he was on screen, it's complete cold open into this guy. Yes, he has a lot of precedence from we all know who Doctor Doom is, but this iteration, this version, this one that Dr. Downey Jr., Robert Downey Jr. is bringing to life, we don't know what pieces of Doctor Doom they're going to pick and choose to bring in. We don't know what pieces of his story they're going to choose to emphasize. So I just think there's so much room for him to still be in this universe and for him to for us as an audience to explore that backstory, that relationship he has with Reed, the subsequent breakdown in a Doomsday, and still be able to give us that emotional payoff. Because at a certain point, he has to have a level of jealousy and envy and hatred for Reed Richards enough to steal his entire family. So it's hard for me to think that a Doctor Doom from another universe is going to be satisfied with a different universe's Reed Richards family and say, I got one up on you, buddy. No, to me, it has to be the same universe.
I don't disagree in that sense. I just think I don't like that it's going to feel so random.
I think if they do the exposition of Doomsday right, it won't need to be.
I don't feel trust that would not happen or that would happen. I really don't. And because there's so much that has to be happening in that movie that I really am not too worried. Or I think I should say I'm actually worried that would not be done correctly. I think it's a weird thing to like, and I get it. Yes, there were like a little hint here and there, but I think to not even have him like, I don't get me wrong, the last few minutes of the movie were like the funniest freaking thing I've ever seen in my life. But to not kind of have him maybe like show up on an offhand or something, that would have done it for me. Because you already would have been like, hold on. And then you know he's in this picture. And then so when you do 4 years later and there's Doom now, you're like, oh, okay. But because we didn't have anything of that nature, like I was sitting there and I'm like, I don't know. I just don't feel like there's that. I don't feel like that payoff would be there. I see your point regarding it being a different one, but you know, he's also, we can't forget, like very warped at this point. By the time he's going into Secret Wars, he is not like chilling. I mean, it wasn't even thinking about the 2000s ones. Once he had the whole metal incident start happening, he was not chilling mentally by any means. Like,
I mean, look, Doctor Doom is not a chill man.
no, but I just mean like as soon as that, like he starts to really unravel in different ways, and things
He's
that
very
maybe,
obsessive.
yeah, and things that maybe used to hold him back don't hold him back anymore. Obsession can be very strong. So while yes, you're like, oh, the jealousy and things of that nature, the ability to get like to screw any Reed Richards over, but also be obsessed with his wife and that taking their family and essentially just screwing up their entire life just out of spite, which is really half of what it is. I don't know if it matters whose version of it is. I really don't. But also, you can't take out the factor to me that they know that son is powerful. And Galactus knew that Franklin was powerful. And so he's just as much of a draw in this situation, as far as I'm concerned, as anything else.
I don't disagree with that last part. I just think you can still have a Doctor Doom who's been operating in the background.
That's aggravating.
I mean, look, in a perfect world, they would have set up this entire culminating experience way better than the absolute random BS
I just think in this circumstance, you had the ability to set it up a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like, because to me, regardless of how you do that, it just feels like you're like retconning a relationship that you're like, it does exist. And you're like, okay, but like we saw no part of that before. And we had those small references that really blink and you didn't notice, as in like how I was like, that seems important that those people aren't there, but I didn't think about it. So like, I just think you needed something a little bit more of a push. Even like if they were talking about it, even in the recap video at the very beginning, if they had done a little bit of like going into their past or something and being like, you know, Dr. Reed Richards is accomplished in blah, 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 and rose to whatever through his partnership with Victor Von Doom, or you know, like you like have a name drop or like whatever, and then just like subtle things that you would have been there and been like, he's in this universe, he exists in this universe.
As the one who normally needs the hit me on the head overt connections, I'm fine with the Latveria thing.
I just think it's cheap. I think it's cheap, and it's essentially retconning a relationship that could have been kind of semi like breadcrumbed into it to begin with. I think when you establish something that is so disconnected from that's, which is fine, from the bigger MCU and also from what we're used to. I mean, remember, the Fantastic Four has been established for 4 years before this movie.
Yeah.
So like, I'm thinking about all of this and there's no Victor Von Doom during any of that, and then now that's 8 years later he shows up. I don't know. It doesn't, to me, I don't like it.
I don't have a problem with it because
I think it's random.
I don't think it's random because I think you got one side of the story, right? You got Reed Richards' side of the story. Doomsday is about Doom.
I understand that, but
Doom's
it's
side
not
of the story.
But you're going to have to understand it's not just about him. We have 30 characters confirmed for Doomsday.
I understand that. But if you think even about Infinity War, like, who is one of the main characters? Regardless of the other Avengers, it's Thanos.
But we're not getting like a deep thing about Thanos, and we didn't go into...
You got his whole philosophy. You got him going and getting Gamora. You got all these flashbacks that...
Yes, but we
share
also,
his story.
You can't ignore the fact we saw Thanos throughout almost 10 years of film.
I understand that. They didn't plan well. They also thought Kang was going to be their guy. So, like, it's not like we can just go back and fix that.
Yeah. But this movie was filmed way past the Jonathan Majors Kang situation. They could have breadcrumbed in at least this movie something with Doom that would establish him a little further in this universe so that he doesn't just show up. To me, that was a mistake in which they could have fixed. There are plenty of movies they couldn't have. I get it. I mean, we have Ant-Man out here that literally like might as well, like, what's the point of the movie? I don't know. To destroy Paul Rudd's entire career in Marvel? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the big thing that I'm really looking for is just a trailer or some sort of synopsis for Doomsday, because I think that's going to help a lot with trying to understand exactly what universe he's from. I'm excited that we got him for the first time on screen, at least. That seems like a big step. But I'm also looking forward to understanding where this guy is from and, you know, what universe he's been hiding out in, because he's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
All right. I think going down our list mentally, I think we've hit everything that we wanted to talk about, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So this has been our kind of breakout part B episode, if you will, of reactions to Fantastic Four First Steps. We're not sure exactly what we're going to dive into next, so TBD there. But please make sure if you enjoy this episode that you're subscribing on your podcast platform of choice so that you get all of our future episodes. If you're looking for more things related to the show, our website is linked down below in the show notes. And last but not least, if you're a fan and you're enjoying the show, you can support us via our Buy Me a Coffee. We've also linked that below just for easy access.
You can also follow all of our socials, which are linked down in the show notes as well. And like we said, TBD on our episode next week. Just know to join us. That's all that really matters. There will be an episode, so make sure you guys are keeping an eye out for it. Either way, Marvel just blew your mind, so let's talk about it.